Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today and joining us for this webinar on invasive plant education across Montana. Our goal is to inspire you to participate in local efforts and give you practical ideas to start your own initiatives. To begin, Montana's journey in noxious weed education began over 30 years ago when a statewide survey revealed that most residents didn't realize the serious impact invasive species were having on our lands. In response, the Montana Noxious Weed Education Campaign was launched in 1995 to raise awareness and to promote integrated weed management. Over time, this effort grew into a network of partnerships. County weed districts, state agencies, nonprofits, and educators all work together to create resources, a school curriculum, and community programs. Today, these efforts, awareness has increased, and local initiatives are making a real difference across the state. But the work isn't done. Invasive plants continue to threaten Montana's agriculture, economics, ecosystems, and recreation. Education is one of our most powerful tools because when people understand the problem, they tend to take action. That's why we're here today to share success stories, practical outreach strategies, and to inspire you to start or strengthen your efforts in your current programs and in your community. My name is Megan Hoyer. I'm the Invasive Species Education Coordinator for the Montana Department of Agriculture. I'm going to be your host, and behind the scenes, we've got Greta Diggy, the Montana Department of Agriculture's Noxious Weed Trust Fund Coordinator. She's behind the scenes. She's ready to assist with any technical difficulties, and she's going to monitor our chat box. Her phone number and email address are being placed in the chat box. And then, Greta, do you think you could please take a moment to talk to us a little bit about the Montana Noxious Weed Trust Fund education grant opportunities?
Sure. Um, ah, sure. So today we're hearing a lot about the educational opportunities, and excuse me, so many things going on. So a lot of the programs that you're viewing today have either received or applied for and received a grant at one time or another. Just some information here. We have about 7 different opportunities, with the education funding opportunity just being one of those. Our current cycle for the 2026 is closed, and we're currently reviewing applications with grant hearings coming up on March 9th through the 12th. And the next opening will be in September of 2026, so this fall. Education projects should support the state in accomplishing coordination, prevention, detection, rapid response, or control goals outlined as in our Appendix A of our state weed management plan. It should build coalitions, partnerships with available weed management resources, provide events and opportunities for the public to gain knowledge about noxious weeds and their impacts, create opportunities for the public to act and impact a large number of participants, and or benefit future weed managers. Please visit the Noxious Weed Trust Fund site at the link below, or you can just Google Montana Noxious Weed Trust Fund. That will also take you to that site. And I hope that you learn a lot today. And again, if you have any questions or need assistance, please let me know. And we'll be posting information in the chat for everybody. And please use the Q&A box during this time, or if questions arise throughout the presentations. We do ask that if, just in case we don't get to your question in the time that's allowed after the speaker finishes, that you put the name in front of your question so that at the end we can come back to that and make sure we do answer those. So thank you, and I'll turn it back over to Megan.
Thank you, Greta. The Montana Noxious Weed Trust Fund grants sound like an incredible resource that have already supported many of the programs in Montana. It's a much appreciated funding source for education and outreach, provided to help communities to create innovative projects, build partnerships, and prevent invasive plant spread before it becomes even more costly. I personally am very thankful that the Montana Noxious Weed Trust Fund Advisory Council values education and acknowledges it as a key component to invasive plant management, and it definitely is a very powerful long-term tool. Our goal today is to inspire you to participate in invasive plant education, and it gives you the tools to start your own local initiative. We're going to hear from 4 amazing presenters who are going to share their outreach methods, success stories, lessons learned, and some tips for launching similar efforts. Some quick housekeeping things. Each speaker is going to have about 15 minutes, followed by a 5-minute question and answer. As Greta mentioned, if our questions run over at the end, we're going to stay late. If you cannot stay late, that's okay. You can follow up because this is going to be recorded and it will be posted to the MDA's YouTube channel, as well as the MDA new kNOweeds website. Greta is putting those links in the chat box now if you'd like to follow them and subscribe. I know Josh puts his early detection rapid response videos on there, and so there's a lot of different education tools within that. When we are submitting questions for our presenters, I imagine it might get kind of busy, so if you could please, just to remind you, put the name of the presenter that the question is directed at and followed by the question. And if you have any questions that you want to talk to me about after this, or if you're interested in featuring your education and outreach programs for a future webinar, please give me a call. I'm interested in chatting. But our first presenter is Stephanie Rogi, who serves as the education coordinator with the Missoula County Department of Ecology. She develops and delivers collaborative education and outreach programs that support public land stewardship throughout the county. Her K through 12 programming offers repeated hands-on learning experiences focused on native and invasive terrestrial plants, enabling students to develop foundational plant identification skills and explore how plants disperse and thrive in Montana ecosystems. In addition to school-based education, Stephanie coordinates the Youth in Restoration programs, a natural resource mentorship program. It helps encourage summer employment. It's a summer employment opportunity for high school students, and the program connects youth with land management professionals through field-based projects, building workforce skills, environmental awareness, and the path into natural resource careers. So Stephanie is going to be sharing a few key activities and outreach strategies that have made her program successful. All right, Stephanie, would you like to go ahead and share your screen?
Am I not?
Not currently.
Okay, let me do that. Is that working?
Yes.
All right, let me get our faces out of my notes. Okay, well, thank you for the introduction and for inviting me to present on Missoula County's education program. As we all know, typically one size doesn't fit all, and it's nice to have a platform to learn what others are doing that has the potential to be applied in other areas of our state. So again, my name is Stephanie, and I've been doing education at Missoula County for the past 17 years. That's a long time, so I've learned lots of lessons. The department's youth education program is built around cultivating curiosity at an early age and continuing to nurture it as students grow. We think rather than a single lesson or a one-time visit, our approach focuses on repeated exposure to ecology concepts throughout a student's school experience. Each program builds upon the last, creating a learning pathway from elementary school through high school that introduces, reinforces, and deepens the understanding of native plants, invasive species, and land stewardship. Our goals reflect a long-term vision for youth education. We aim to provide continuous age-appropriate learning opportunities across that K through 12, so students encounter these topics multiple times and in meaningful ways. By introducing basic concepts early and revisiting them as students mature, we strengthen the understanding rather than overwhelming learners all at once. These programs also support biodiversity education and highlight the importance of native plants, and they build awareness of invasive species while expanding partnerships and hopefully inspiring future natural resource professionals. Our program directly involves students in that process of learning. It's place-based learning is central to my youth education efforts. By using Missoula County's landscapes and parks or schoolyards as classrooms, students are able to make direct connections between what they learn and the places they live. I feel like this approach makes plant ecology relevant and more tangible, helping students see that natural resource issues aren't abstract, but they exist right outside their doors. Across all of the programs, our educational philosophy centers on 3 core ideas, and that's inspiring curiosity, encouraging observation, and helping students make connections. All of the instructors share excitement for plants, our own personal connections and experiences throughout the programming. Whether they're noticing plant structures or identifying seeds or recognizing invasive species, these skills are foundational to our program. We emphasize that personal observation throughout all of our programs. We like to guide discussions to help foster a personal connection with spaces and habitats, plants, and experiences. And we do this through activities they like to do, such as hiking or fishing or hunting, or maybe they like insects. This strategy and these discussions are intentional, and we repeat them across grade levels so that students continue practicing how to look closely at the natural world and understand relationships within it. Today, I'm going to highlight 5 of our programs that show this approach and how we build learning over time. I'm going to start with the Nature's Travelers Seed Dispersal Program, and this is a first grade program. And this program provides our most earliest touch point in plants. I offer this in the fall, and the goal is not to master anything, it's exposure. We want students to begin forming positive associations with plants or movement and seasonal changes, which will then hopefully prepare them for a deeper learning later on. This program teaches about the mechanism of seed dispersal, how plants are introduced and move around. It consists of a classroom instruction and small group activities where students develop and build seeds that can move by wind or explosion or by clinging. A bonus to this program is access to outdoor spaces to explore examples of seed dispersal, and this further expands their experience if you can add that on. In this cute picture, the students are observing firsthand the tiny hooks that are on at the end of each burr that allows it to stick to fur clothing. And because I like to have fun and be silly, because I think it enhances an experience, we always ask for a volunteer to see if we can get the burr to stick to their clothing. In second grade, we build directly on the earlier learning by shifting focus to plant structure and function through the Purpose of Plants program. In this program, students explore why plants look the way they do and how those structures support pollinators. This is often their first introduction to the idea that plants play an important role in our local ecosystem. This program builds upon the conversations of how plants grow from seeds while adding new layers of pollination and native species and plant-animal relationships. Because students have already been exposed to plant basics, they're ready to ask deeper questions. And then this repeated exposure helps to solidify understanding and keeps these concepts developmentally appropriate. Again, the Purpose of Plant focuses on native plants and native pollinators relationships for reproduction, habitat, and food. I've learned that with most of my programs, I need to be adaptable. So I offer both the Nature's Travelers and the Purpose of Plants program as a 1-hour school visit or a 2-hour on-site at our facility visits and utilize our garden, because not all schools can travel. Because the kids are on the go and busy, we all know, taking a break is actually very beneficial from that structured learning and can help keep our lessons on track. So with my first and second grade programs, I like to build this edible flower snack. It's a great break, and it actually utilizes some of those newly learned skills on plant structure because they have to build their own flower. Obviously, I can only do this when they come to my facility because it does take a lot of time and it's very messy. Moving on is the third grade Nature Walk Week, and this was a program actually derived from a collaborative program through the Forest Service, the To Get More Kids Outside initiative. Nature Walk Week brings learning outdoors and emphasizes exploration. Third graders rotate between learning stations that are led by multiple partner organizations. This variety reinforces learning while showing students that many agencies and professionals care for the same landscape and just in different capacities. The program highlights the value of collaboration. With the 5 partner organizations involved, students get to experience multiple perspectives. And this reinforces the shared message about natural resources. We try to do repeated themes of plants, habitats, stewardship, and this also helps connect classroom learning with real world application. By 5th grade, students are ready to explore more complex ecological topics. So the Leave No Weeds program introduces native plant identification, biodiversity, and the impacts of invasive species. This program combines classroom instruction with a field experience. So this allows students to apply what they've learned in a real environment. The program was intentionally revisits earlier concept of plant structure, plant identification, and ecosystem relationships, but through a more advanced lens. They begin to understand management practices like integrated pest management and why invasive species matter. The classroom to field progression strengthens the comprehension and confidence in newly learned skills and concepts. And I always, with all of my programs, try to allow time for that individual inquiry and exploration because it's always going to help strengthen their personal connection and hopefully make what we're learning stick. At the high school level, our education transitions into more of a workforce development through our youth and restoration program. Students apply the concepts they've encountered for years in hands-on conservation work. This program represents the culmination of multiple education touch points, turning knowledge into action. The Youth and Restoration program is a paid high school career mentorship program. This program is an 8 to 9 week summer job, and it exposes 4 high school students to professionals in the natural resource world. They contribute to land management projects in Western Montana, ranging from noxious weed removal, biocontrol collections and releases, vegetation monitoring, trail maintenance, vegetation clearing, seed collections, raptor monitoring, aquatic invasive species, fence building, you name it, they'll try it. We partner with 15 to 20 different agencies, and this program again offers a broad exposure to conservation and natural resource careers. And hopefully by this stage, the students have a foundation built from the years of earlier programming, which allows them to meaningfully engage in stewardship, teamwork, and problem solving. This program promotes a ton of collaboration and partnerships with like-minded agencies and organizations. And in conclusion, at the heart of our programming, the youth education work is the understanding that learning happens best over time. And typically there's not going to be a single lesson that creates change, but more repeated exposure, collaboration and strong partnerships and flexibility, and being able to meet people where they are allowing us to reach students of different ages and learning styles and backgrounds. By working together and building knowledge step by step, we hope to strengthen community understanding of both invasive and native plants and hopefully help foster a more well-informed generation of land stewardship. Most importantly, I strive to deliver fun and engaging programs because I think there's nothing more contagious than having fun and being silly while you're learning. It's always going to stick a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was fantastic. Do we have any questions? We'll take a few minutes. There, Greta, I'll pass the mic to you.
There currently are no questions for Stephanie at this time.
I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was awesome. Appreciate it. I better start sharing. Oh, next we have, it's not my turn to share. I apologize. Up next, we have Kellyanne Fillingham. Kellyanne, do you mind sharing your screen? Oh,
there we go.
Great. So as Kellyanne's getting ready, I'll go ahead and read a little bit about this amazing lady. Kellyanne Fillingham is the Ravalli County Weed District Coordinator and has been in Ravalli County Weed District for almost 25 years. Their office is located in Victor, Montana. That's just below Missoula. Their education efforts never stop. Over the years, many of the projects she has done for the county have benefited the entire state. She believes education is the only way we will ever truly make a difference in the reduction with weeds. I'm right there with you, Kellyanne. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, education, when it comes to the county weed departments, we work with so many different aspects of public that we need all the help we can get. We have three full-time employees here at the Ravalli County Weed District, and our job is to treat noxious weeds, but we can't get to them all. So we need everybody to be involved and have the same mission, have the same goals. And as you know, that's never the case on any topic that has to do with anything. So the more we can do to help our folks, the better. We partner a lot with the private side of our county, the state, federal agencies, and county different agencies. So what we do is focus on a lot of different educational programs that will hopefully reach a little bit to a lot, if you will, on that, because there's just so much to do. Our main job as a county weed department is to treat noxious weeds. But I feel like we need to do different things with education to get that public involved, to get our agencies and different groups involved so we can all make a difference together. I've worked on over the years multiple different educational things to be able to share with anybody that's willing to do it. One of the projects that we just recently did, thanks to the Noxious Weed Trust Fund Council that helped us fund this project, was what I call the door knockers or door hangers. I'll just kind of hold this up and show you. This particular door hanger is about leafy spurge. So while the county weed department's out working Monday through Friday during the week, most of our residents are also doing the same thing. And so when you go to the door to knock on their door and talk with them about something you might see on their property or along their road edge, they're not home. So these give they're a great tool to be able to put on their door or their fence or something, just to let them know. On the back of each one has some very quick facts of what they are and a place to be able to put your contact information. And these have come in so handy over the last 2 years that we've been working on them. It's just a great tool. It's a quick way to reach someone with some shocking facts on it, so that hopefully they'll contact you and get more information. We did make up and print all of the state listed noxious weeds and a handful of different county listed noxious weeds for around the state. These are available to get picked up through the Department of Ag. I think we've got all these now to Megan and her crew. So that way anybody that needs these can use them. And again, you can customize them by putting your own label on the back. So that way your contact information is there. So there's a lot of these little door knockers, if you will, door hangers that are available to anybody that's wanting to use them. And thanks to the trust fund, this was, I want to say, a $5,000 or $6,000, maybe $7,000 project, but we printed a lot of each one of these. So that's one of the great educational tools that we all have available to us. and I encourage you all to try to use them. They are coming in really handy. They're great for the Forest Service guys. They can keep a stack of them in their truck, and when they're on the roads, they can get out there when they reach people and let them know what's out there and give handouts. For example, up in Flathead, they have a problem with tansy up there, tansy ragwort, and so they've been giving that information out. Another fun project that we've done here in Ravalli County that is going crazy. Whoops, hopefully you're still there. I lost you for a second. There we go. Is these metal signs. These are invaders that we're worried about in Ravalli County. And we did this several years ago. We're just in the process of updating these nice metal signs. We probably printed about 450 of these metal signs up, and they hang at every trailhead, every river access site, on refuges, entrances to parking locations. They're literally hung everywhere, and we have had tons of comment on them. These were phenomenally printed. They are 10 or 12, maybe even 15 years old now, and they are just as vivid as can be. So good quality printing, good material, and it's a great tool, and it's hitting every single parking lot, trailhead to any of our outdoor locations. So these are can also be available to you. I can help assist you if it's something that you're interested in with your stuff. We do a lot of different trainings. If some of the things maybe that I'm talking about today, you can incorporate into your program. The Forest Service needs constant training on the different things that are happening, new species that are coming in. I educate my county road department. Those boys are out there working on those roads, and they're seeing things that maybe we're not seeing. So providing them with donuts in the morning before they head out for the day and give them 45 minutes of weed identification training is very good. We're in the process right now of training our sheriff's department. Through the weed department, we have some folks that love what we do and who have some folks that don't. And so sometimes problems arise when you're out on the roadside, and to know that you have someone that understands Montana state weed law and can help mitigate any kind of situation happening out there. It's important for your local law enforcement to know what they can do to help you or help the person that might be upset. We just started a brand new electronic newsletter. It's through a program called Flip Snack. And what is awesome about this electronic newsletter is you can embed videos, you can track how many people are viewing it, how many times it's shared. It's fairly expensive, about $900 a year. But we have an email list that is ever growing by the hundreds now that are receiving this electronic email. And we put in that newsletter everything from recipes that you can create with noxious weeds to calibration, who to contact for information. We have funny, we have games, we have so many resources out there with all of you guys, from Department of Ag to the extension office and all that, what MEG programs are. And we're borrowing, stealing, and using all the different information to get out to our list of folks that have an email. So they're all stuck with getting this awesome interactive electronic newsletter. So that's been positive as well. We do a lot of classes at the weed department. We put on weed identification classes, calibration classes, so that way people can properly apply the herbicide. They know how to use the equipment that they're spending a ton of money on. And so we do a lot of classes for that. We get credits for the private landowners, and we can get credits for the commercial applicators. So it's not just benefiting the people that already know about weeds, but it's benefiting our public because they are learning how to manage their vegetation on their ground. One of the other things that we've did, just like Stephanie was talking about earlier, is making fun out of something that is sometimes pretty awful. Weeds are not fun. But we started many years ago what we call the floating weed pool. So we rented rafts from the university at a fairly cheap rate, and we took people down the river. They got a free float down the beautiful Bitterroot River, but we tricked them a little and we made them get out at every gravel bar and just pull weeds, and they would have little learning stations as they stopped. And then they would get a great barbecue lunch and win lots of great prizes. And the Trust Fund Council and local donations came in to help do this. When we first started this program, we had a weed called blue weed on the Bitterroot River, and it was atrocious. We pulled hundreds of contractor trash bags of blue weed off the river with the help of our citizens that wanted to do our floating weed pull. And it actually got to the point to where we had over 100 people that we were trying to get floated down the river, and we had less and less weeds each year. So then the landowners that were learning about this weed and all the efforts that they helped put in to reduce it saw the difference. But we just started getting so big and not enough weeds. So we've now switched that program to a contractor to take care of the blue weed on the river. And last year he collected 10 contractor trash bags of blue weed. Getting the public involved, getting them knowledgeable about that. We're still getting calls from folks all these years later about blue weed and other invasives because they attended that event. So if there's a way you can pull something like that off, prizes, food, and a free float trip gets people to the table every time. So having fun and making a difference, like Stephanie had said, is exactly what we try to do around here. We do a lot of social media posts. So those of you that don't have Facebook or TikTok or all those fun things now, we do have those, and we get quite a bit of engagement. We get a lot of calls on it, and that helps us spend that time we need with the people that are calling to even further educate them. So if you don't have the power of social media nowadays, I absolutely would encourage you to get into that for your education program. Here at the Weed District, we do private land visits. A landowner will call up and they say, I got this weed. And if we can have enough time to talk with them, it usually results in a private land visit where we will go out with them on their property, look at their weeds, their grasses, their soils, their trees, and what their goals are for that property. And when you can do a one-on-one visit, develop a relationship with these landowners, it is truly unbelievable for the years that they continue to come back and ask questions. The best part about it is they go and tell their friends and family and neighbors. And the next thing you know, we're very busy with our land visits, but we're never going to reach everybody that way. There's not enough time, staff, money in the world, but the ones we reach, it makes a very big difference on what we're getting done out there. So the private land visits, if you can find time, the trust fund has helped us with education position, helping funding education activities in our county. And so if you don't have the funding to have something, that I absolutely would contact Greta and let her know what you're thinking about, and see if you can't get some help with funding somebody that can help you with that. We have an education trailer. There's several of them around the state, but we take an education trailer plumb full of all kinds of fun and games to different activities throughout our county, from fair to fourth grade farm fair, sixth grade conservation days. We take it and just park it randomly somewhere in town and sit there on the sidewalk with this education trailer and give people cookies that come by. And if they ask us a question, we do our best to answer them. That's been a pretty good, successful program that's going to continue to grow. So I'm excited about that. And if you're anywhere in the western side of the state, this education trailer is available to you. And if you're not on the western side of Montana, then contact your local weed district and find out who your area representative is for the council there, and they can point you to the closest education trailer that I bet you could use for any of your events. We also assist with where we can with the Montana Weed Control Association. They offer a ton of different educational things, from the weed ID booklets to the weed calendars, the Why Should I Care booklets, and being a part of all that stuff over the years with the Montana Weed Control Association has given me the opportunity to also assist. So writing those educational articles for the calendar or providing good visual pictures and whatnot of that type of stuff helps. And all that material that's developed through the Montana Weed Control Association is shared with Megan in our state program, Department of Ag. Everybody just seems to work together. If there's something that you need for your education program, there's one of us out there that's willing to help you. I would like to show you one of the projects I'm pretty proud of. It took me several years to do. I traveled back and forth across the state of Montana for quite a while to make education videos. Oftentimes just looking at a picture does not help you with identification in noxious weeds. So we decided with the Montana Weed Control Association, Department of Agriculture, and myself here at the Weed District that we would make these short little videos that could be used on your social media sites, on your websites, when your landowner visits, with anybody really that's willing to listen. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this all works here, and play you one of the little videos so you just have an idea on how these are put together. This particular video is on common buckthorn. So let's see if we can make this play and get you started.
Common buckthorn is a species that was introduced to the United States in the 1800s as an ornamental plant. This plant has naturalized and grows in riparian areas where it produces a dense understory that can negatively impact our ecosystem. Wildlife can help disperse the seeds of the buckthorn. The seeds can act as a laxative, providing animals with little or no nutritional value. In addition, buckthorn is thought to exude allelopathic chemicals that inhibit the growth of surrounding vegetation. This weed is a tall understory shrub that can grow to 25 feet tall with a spreading, loosely branched crown with multiple stems at the base. The fruit of buckthorn are large, round, and berry-like clusters that are black in color. Each berry has 3 to 4 seeds. Its presence is reported in 36 states at this time, and there are efforts to restrict the sale. However, it can still be found in some nurseries. Planting native vegetation is a great alternative to this exotic plant species. A single mature plant can produce up to 10,000 seeds. For small plants, hand pulling will work fine, but for larger ones, a saw will be needed, and after cutting the shrub, an herbicide will need to be applied. If the root material is not completely removed or herbicide is not used, the plant will regrow. Removing this plant is important because it can decrease forest health and lowers native biodiversity. Proper identification is the first step in slowing and controlling new invaders. The most important thing about noxious weeds is to educate yourself to protect the landscape for wildlife and future generations. If you think you have noxious weeds, contact your local weed district, extension office, or Department of Agriculture.
So that is one of the videos that we've done. And again, we have every state listed noxious weed video and a handful of county listed noxious weeds. And they're available to you for no charge. And they are a great tool to use out there when you're doing any kind of education. They're quick. They're kind of shocking because you can see the plants, you know, and what they're doing to our landscape and treatment efforts, and the reason why we're doing it for wildlife and our future generations, all of our kids that want to enjoy Montana. So that is one of I'm pretty proud of that particular item for you. So please feel free to jump on any site or call me, contact me. I'll put my contact information in the chats once I get done here with this, and we will be happy to help you with any of those different educational needs that you might need that we can help, because lots of good ideas when we join forces come. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about what we do in Ravalli County. And I look forward to all the new different educational things we're able to move forward on. And thanks to Megan and Greta and the Montana Weed Control Association for all they've done to help us through the years. Any questions?
So we do have a few questions, and I did, Kellyanne, beat you to it. Your name, email, and web address and all that stuff is in the chat already for you. We did have a question, which I'm going to shout out first, and then I'm going to go to a few more, is we had a question about how to get those and the door hangers. And we at MDA have those, so we will be bringing some down, but not all of them, mind you. So if you have specific ones, please reach out to us, and I'll be putting my information or Megan's in the chat. So please let us know what species you want, and we can get those to you. Next is we have is where do you get the metal signs printed?
So we just use our local Allegra printing shop down here to do it. They run, because we order so many at a time, they're running at about $5 a piece. When we first had that done, they were about $3 a piece. But they're running about $5 now as we're getting ready to prep for a brand new edition of these plants. So if it's something that you're interested in for your county and we have similar weeds, I can provide you with the template for it, or I can just add you to our list of ordering, and then we can just get you those signs. And of course, as you guys know, the more you order, the cheaper they are. So if that's something you're interested in, is join forces with us, I'll definitely be happy to order those signs for you. And you can give me a call or contact me to see if what weeds we have on this particular next set of signs. See if it fits yours. Thanks, Greta.
Perfect. Next question is, where do you get your social media content?
Anywhere we can get it. Either we make it ourselves, or we borrow it from Department of Ag, the different events that are going on. Chat GPT now has a ton of great things. If you don't have time when you're out in the field working, take a picture, just mention what you're doing out there. This year, we also have a native pollinator garden, native and a pollinator garden of beneficial plants. And so we are profiling a lot of the plants that are growing. When you get rid of the weeds, you need to replace them with something beneficial. So we have a beautiful garden down here. And when you're taking pictures of full bloomed lupin or echinacea, different plants that grow well here, those pictures are so graphic, and you can literally upload any information that you're seeing out there that you find interesting and share it on your social media sites. Yep.
Thank you. We have another question here that says, can we access / use the educational videos? And if so, where would they be located? Department of Ag websites. And I believe I will take part of that. There are, our EDRR program has a link to a good chunk of those. Specific ones for those species, which will then, if you go watch those, will take you to the site that houses the rest of those as well. Kellyanne, if you do have that one that you can drop in the link, we can add that there as well.
You bet. The other thing you can do is contact me, and I can throw them all on a nice big jump drive. You don't have to search the web for them. But like Greta said, Megan's got them, Department of Ag's got them, Montana Weed Control Association's got them. But if you don't want to figure out how to download them and all of you, you're welcome to watch them and do all that for sure. That's what they're there for. But I can send you a jump drive with every one of them on there. So all you got to do is plug it in your computer and hit play. So just contact me if you're interested in those. And again, thanks to the Department of Ag, because they helped us fund this, and the Montana Weed Control Association.
I do have, I think one more is that it's education for trailers for kids. Is that the same as the irrigation trailer?
Not for us in our situation. No, ours is all about noxious weeds. So we don't do anything with with any kind of irrigation, although we do education. We do educate our ditch riders and our different irrigation groups around here. But the trailer is not anything to do with irrigation.
Great, thanks. I think we may have one that will pop up later here towards the end. And the thing is for those of you that do have the name showing up as Megan Hoyer in the attendees list, can we ask that you rename yourselves and put in your name? I tried to do that, but there's quite a few of you, and I can't figure out which one to do that with. So at the end of your name, there should be 3 dots. Click it, and a menu should pop up and say rename. Click that, and you should be able to type your name. So thank you. We do have one more question that says, do you have an education plan for the weed identification class and calibrating class?
Yeah, so those classes that we put on, we either do it over about a 5-hour period in one day, and we have an agenda for that. I'll bring speakers in or talk myself, yeah, or we do it like 2 hours for 2 or 3 times during the week to try to catch the most amount of people. But I have an agenda that we've been doing. It's pretty close to the same thing each year. We get a handful of people, usually 15 to 25 folks that attend that class. And most of the time they're different, except for our commercial applicants that are looking for credits. If you need some sort of an agenda, ideas on who can speak in your area, we know all the weed coordinators and everybody across the state, so we can get you the right people that can help you with putting on a class in your area. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kellyanne. Just for clarification about door hangers, email us and we'll be bringing, if you're going to be attending the Montana Noxious Weed conference here coming up in February, we can bring those to you there. If not, we can connect up with you later. So let us know, and we can bring more than just what that we're planning to. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. This is a great meeting. Get a lot out of it.
And Kellyanne, you really provided some great resources. Thank you, everybody, for your great questions. I'm really excited. We've got Abby with Grow Wild up next. I'll give Abby a moment to share her screen, and I'll read a little bit of a background knowledge on her. Abby Butler is the Conservation Program Coordinator for Grow Wild, a Big Sky nonprofit focused on conservation of native species in Upper Gallatin watershed. A major focus of her work is their education and outreach program that aims to reach locals and visitors of all ages through engaging, place-based programming with a focus on personal responsibility. Before Abby wants to begin, her contact information will be put in the chat box. Grow Wild has one of those awesome, amazing educational trailers that travel around the state. She shared her report with me. A link to that will also be put in the chat box, and you can also visit their website and find it there. But without further ado, Abby, thank you so much for joining us, and we can't wait to hear from you and Grow Wild.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself there for a second. Thank you, Megan and Greta, for inviting me and inviting Grow Wild to talk about our education and outreach program. I feel like I've already learned so much from Stephanie and Kellyanne, so thank you guys both as well. But yeah, to go ahead and get started. So if you're unfamiliar with Grow Wild, like Megan said, we are a nonprofit based mainly in Big Sky, and our mission is to conserve native species in the Upper Gallatin watershed through education, habitat restoration, and collaborative land stewardship. And with that, kind of our goal through our mission is to provide or to promote functional and healthy ecosystems that are sustained by an informed and engaged community. And how do we get an informed and engaged community? We educate people. So again, a little bit more background for our project area. Again, we serve mainly in kind of that Big Sky core area, but we are able to kind of expand our reach for different programming. So like into the Gallatin Canyon. We have weed poles, and we have a Conserve Our Canyon program and a bighorn sheep management program. And then even further out, you can see throughout Gallatin, Madison, and even Park counties, that's kind of where the extent of our education and outreach programs go. We are looking, again, with our education trailer that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. We are very happy to travel around Southwest Montana. So just to plug, if you ever have an event or a community event, a need for an education component for something, we're very happy to come out there and, if we can, to go and teach something and help be a resource to the community. Because like Kellyanne said, it takes a lot of people and a lot of partners working together. So we're there when we can. So I'm going to be talking about three kind of different programmy type things, and beginning with our youth education program. We're just going to share a couple of games and kind of how we kind of focus our programming and kind of what the goal with it is. And yeah. So, for example, our games are very hands-on. We kind of try to spend as much time outside as we can, have them be able to learn something kind of before, do a short little presentation, and then definitely get them out and moving and using their hands or working together as a team or doing something that I think we all know that kids are hard to make sit still for a long time. So whatever way we can to make them engaged, we love to do. For example, one of our games in the bottom left corner, you can see they're running around. There's some pool noodles and there's some little like sport cones. That one is our aquatic invasive species musical chairs game. So that one's really cool. I think it's a great example of the kind of programming that we strive to have, because it really incorporates kind of discussing overall ecosystem health. So we talk about like the kids are assigned either a native trout or they're a native stonefly. And then we talk about, what happens when invasive species are introduced into a healthy native river ecosystem. And so over time, they end up kind of competing between each other, and either becoming an invasive species or trying their best not to become an invasive species. And it becomes very fun and very competitive and at times even emotional. So kids really love it, and they get all their wiggles out. And then at the very end, we get to have a cool discussion about like, oh my gosh, that was crazy that these invasive species had such a big impact. And so that allows them to kind of really get that bigger picture. And then another cool example that we actually got from a CMIST aquatic invasives training. They're a really awesome organization. I definitely recommend if they ever have aquatic invasive species trainings, you should go, and there's a lot you can learn from them. But this one, we brought in a bunch of different equipment. So we have like a kayak, an inflatable paddle board. We had some waders and some wading boots. Then we had kids go into teams, and then they would try and find all of the different little hidden aquatic invasive species. So we had little like fake dots or fake plants, and then they had to go find and see if they could find all of them. And that's a really cool way, I think, you can talk about aquatic invasive species and the importance of clean, drain, dry and clean recreation when you're out recreating. But it's also a really cool way to tangibly show them how to actually do that in the real world. And they also can be competitive because kids love to be competitive. So yeah, and I think a really core part of kind of how we frame our really any programming with education, especially with kids, is really just allowing them to ask questions and to think critically. I think I haven't been in this role super long. This is my second year with Grow Wild, but I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is just realizing that when you are teaching, you might have this big list of things that you want to cover and you want them to understand, but ultimately, they're not going to remember everything you say. And so focusing on things that click with them and that kind of spark their interest and being able to have conversations about those things, I think is one of the best things that I've learned and I'm still learning how to do really well. So that would be kind of a lesson learned for me for sure. And then our education trailer, as Megan mentioned, we have a PDF of our report that'll be in the chat. Definitely check that out. Gives you more information, a little bit more background. But we had actually been borrowing, before my time here with Grow Wild, we had been borrowing Jill Allen's trailer from Jefferson County. So shout out to Jill. It's a really awesome trailer, and we were so inspired that we wanted to go ahead and make our own. So in 2023, we got some funding together from a lot of awesome funders and partners, and we're able to make our own education trailer. And we'll show you some more pictures in the next slides, but it's completely covered on the inside and the outside. There's tons of resources and graphics and cool interactive things that people can look at, and it's been a really great way for us to engage people and to get them to invite us out to places. And it's been a really cool resource. So with that, since 2023, we've been to over 124 events. We have driven many, many miles, over 9,000, and then have been able to educate almost 2,500 kids. So it's been a really great resource. And like I said, it's interactive, it's mobile. We're moving all over Southwest Montana. If you haven't been inside our education trailer before, how it's kind of structured is we have one side that's noxious weeds focused, and we have one side that's native plant focused. And you can really just go in there even without one of us there, and you can learn some things, and you can flip through little flip books or try and match up the different invasive species seeds and which one goes with which plant and all of that good stuff and kind of plant identification. And so it's really nice. We've been to lots of farmers markets, and we don't even have to be in the trailer, and people can just walk in and they walk out and they're like, that was awesome. And we learned so much. So I think it's, we're constantly trying to kind of adapt things and make them better. And so that's been a fun project to be part of. And then one thing I really wanted to focus on that was new in 2024 was our ceiling graphic. So there's 5 different panels. Here are the first 2 that are on there. That one, it's a really cool resource, again, for teaching, a good teaching tool, but it showcases 5 different ecotypes that are commonly found throughout Montana. So we start kind of at the very lowest elevation at the riparian zone, and then eventually work our way up all the way to the alpine. And within that, we get to have some really cool conversations about native species and how they interact with each other. So you can see there are no invasive species in any of these panels. So we've got some awesome like goldenrod and native willows and cottonwood and chokecherry, and then some awesome like native cutthroat trout and beavers. So it allows us to have discussions about like keystone species and the importance of those, and like what is a keystone species? Why does it matter? Being able to have those discussions about like food webs and trophic levels and just different interactions, right? And thinking about, okay, so we have this beaver uses the willows. How does that impact the river? And how does that impact the trout? And then eventually the osprey. And you can form all of these connections. And it's a really great way to engage with kids. One of my favorite things to do is to kind of start out with them being like, okay, what do you see? And they can yell out different things they see. And they love to be like, I know all of these species. And it's also really fun to do that with them. And then these are the next 3. We have the montane, subalpine, and alpine. And so again, there's a plethora of things to talk about within there. But one thing we also love to do, if you've noticed, there's a pollinator in every single one of those panels. And so that's also a really good way to tie in a discussion about pollinators and discussing that overall, again, ecosystem health and why pollinators are essential for native plants and how we need to conserve native plants to support our pollinators, which then support everything else. So that's also a really great way. A lot of them will be like, why is there a bee in every single one of those? And so that's fun to chat about. And then I also love to end kind of the little segment of me talking about the ceiling with kind of thinking about, okay, so we learned about invasive species, and what happens when we introduce invasive species into an ecosystem like this. So again, just like doing everything you can to kind of form those connections and have them understand like the greater impact of invasive species on ecosystems like that. And then our last little section is community action. So I think it's really important, especially with youth, I think to get them kind of outside of the classroom, right? And outside of just like learning and playing games. I think it's really impactful when they get to actually go out and see their landscape, see the place that they live, their community, and have an impact. So whether that's like pulling weeds, like for example, I think that the top right is from, we did a pull your share. Megan was there, it was awesome, with some 8th graders from Ennis. We have a Camp Big Sky. We always have them. We have them compete. We have like an adult weed pull that evening, and then the afternoon before they go and compete and try and pull weeds and see if they can beat the adults and pull more pounds of weeds. And they always win, actually, which is not surprising. And then so I think just forming and finding ways for kids to have fun. I know they might not think pulling weeds is fun, but once they get out there, again, they get competitive and they get excited about doing something, and then they get to have that awesome tangible vision of or image of seeing all of these weeds that they've taken out, right? That also is a great way. One, learn plant identification, and then also just like learn about the environment around you and be exposed to that. And then something we also love to do is emphasizing that personal responsibility and taking action. One of our our programs for youth education is our next gen Champions of Conservation program. And so that's kind of trying to build this idea of them being leaders in their community from a really young age. And we've had so many kids go and tell us that their parents are tired of them telling them about invasive species, or so I think it's just been really great to have them be excited and tell us about the invasive species that they're seeing. And again, emphasizing that they do have an impact, clean recreation, all of that good stuff, and that they can play a role within their community and and do something tangible for themselves. So with that, that's all I have for everyone. Again, these are my contact information if you would like to reach out to me about anything. I would add a note that if you're ever interested in like learning about different just education programming or games or like literally any content revolving around that, there's so much stuff online that is genuinely really good content. If you're like not comfortable making your own programming and stuff. I know the invasive species of British Columbia has some really awesome resources you can adapt really easily to make them local. I'm always finding new stuff from partners and adapting it and making it making it work for us. So that would be my plug for not being afraid of making your own programming, because there's tons of it out there. So that's all I have today.
Thank you, Abby. We do have a couple questions. One is, you say you like to travel. Would you consider coming to the southeast corner of the state?
The southeast corner, that would be a big drive. You can definitely reach out to me and we can figure out maybe if that would work, because that would be very fun. Yes, typically we do hang out more in the Southwest. We're expanding into Billings this year. That's one of our events we're having. But Southeast might be a stretch, but definitely there's no harm in reaching out. Our website, you can send out and like a little inquiry form, fill out what your event is, just ask a question, anything like that, and we can get back to you and let you know.
Thank you. We have another one. And the comment is, I love this. The education trailer looks awesome. Something I would love to incorporate into our ag days. Is it possible for you to come to the Highline?
Again, definitely, I think using that little inquiry box on our website would be great. If you have any interest in us coming out, just definitely send us an email, and I can look into that and get back to you and get all that information for you.
Thank you, Abby. This final one is, we all have these. Will all of these links be included in the YouTube video? And I'm scrambling to keep track of all of the great resources. And from my end, that is yes. And I'm going to put the link to our Montana Department of Ag's YouTube page in the chat for you there. Please click on that and make that a favorite, and so that you can go there. Please do give a little bit of time for that to be able to get posted, but Megan has all your guys' names, And so once that's there, she'll be able to let you guys know when it's ready. So thank you.
Thank you, Abby. That was really awesome. I appreciate all the stuff you had to share.
I think I'm up next for you. So I'm here going to introduce Megan Hoyer, the Invasive Species Education Coordinator for the Montana Department of Agriculture. She assists and leads the efforts to protect Montana's ecosystems through education, outreach, and collaborative management. With a background in education and a strong passion for weed management, Megan is dedicated to empowering communities to recognize, prevent the spread, report, and manage invasive species. Teaching audiences prevention and early detection and rapid response are key in keeping invasive species in check. I will go ahead and put the links to websites on where to find more information here in the chat. So take it away, Megan.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. Previous presenters, you guys have done a knockout job. Thank you so much, everybody. I am Megan Hoyer. I'm halfway through my second year in this position, and I love it more and more every day. My favorite part of this has been the partnerships and the relationships I've built along the way. The relationships are great, but these partnerships have helped me amplify invasive species education across the state. When we learn that we can combine resources, our expertise, and our networks, programs reach so many more audience than we could never have imagined. So it also creates a stronger and more unified front against invasive species. So my number one tidbit today is partnerships. The Montana Invasive Species Education Coordinator position was created to fill a need when, sadly, the noxious weed education campaign dissolved. Invasive plant or noxious weed education is the primary focus of this position. But when we look at this entire picture, when we're talking to the general public, our messaging is the same. For me, and what I think, early detection, rapid response is key. And if we could all start learning how to identify some weeds, stopping, slowing the spread of the weeds, and knowing who to report to, we're going to be doing a great start to do our part. Being able to work with all these people and partners just really pushed invasive species education across the board with just noxious weed and invasive plants with all their commonalities. This past year, I've worked really, really hard on this kNOweeds invasive plants education program, which has presented or coordinated presentations, events regarding invasive plant education. I work with landowners, I work with partner agencies, public. I've got a realtor class going, and I've been in a lot of classrooms. It's been fun. Events like 3Ws, workshops, the water, weeds, and wildflower, they pair together. I've been in a lot of those presentations. Applicator renewal credits, community events. I'm working on Indian Ed for All standards and working with educators and teaching them these plant lessons and repercussions of invasive plants. And yeah, just trying to get to a lot of different audiences. And I cannot reach those audiences without my partnerships. The noxious weed the Montana Department of Ag has a noxious weed division. We have a lot of different programs because we realize that noxious weeds are a huge problem and they are tricky and it's not easy. It's not even manageable on your own. So we have all these different programs that help with. Today I'm going to talk about a few of them, but if you'd like more information on these programs, Greta did put a link in the chat box. I think one of the most hands-on, easy to start a program, I call it a CAN program. All the information from start to finish is all on a website. It's all in one spot. Is Pull Your Share. It's a program where simple actions can make a huge impact. Montana's beauty is unmatched, but invasive weeds threaten that. What if every recreator just spent 5 minutes pulling weeds? Together, we could make a huge difference. And that's the idea behind Pull Your Share. It's a statewide program. It started in Great Falls with an awesome man named Dan, and Dan's right there in the jean shirt pulling weeds with kids. Dan is since retired, and he adopted it to the Montana Department of Ag. We usually have an AmeriCorps person who runs this position, but as we know, things always happen. So it's really nice to have all of your information in one spot and having multiple people involved with Pull Your Share so we can get the job done right. This program works in different ways. From the individual action, participants look for signs on trails, they identify the weed on the signage, and then they spend 10, 15 minutes pulling. The outcome that I have seen from these programs is audience learn about an individual weed and a management strategy, and then they carry it to their other recreation outings. Maybe they start packing gloves for protection. Maybe they start bringing along removal tools to get the entire roots. Maybe they start bringing bags to bag and trash to dispose of these weeds. But it seems to be growing. Maybe you've actually seen a Pull Your Share sign. I've got some here. Here's what our spotted knapweed one looks like. And it just has the suggestion at the below to spend those 5-10 minutes. And we've also have this hound's tongue sign. From a group action, an organized educational weed pull event is created, and students and community members are invited for fun, hands-on learning and a volunteer experience. We found that these group action build stewardship and community service opportunities. If the host audience doesn't know too much about weeds and you can't go out and just do a weed pull, we do have presentations and programs where we've gone into classrooms. We've met earlier the day of the weed pull, and we've given them a little bit of background knowledge on why we should care, what the weeds are, how do we pull weeds, and why we pull weeds. We choose spotted knapweeds and hound's tongue for starter programs because they're really common weeds across the state, and we're going to see them in a lot of places. But they also have those long, deep tap roots, so they only reproduce by flower. So physically pulling the weeds, we are going to see a difference. If the program were on something like leafy spurge with the long rhizomatous root system, where new plants are shooting from the roots and the seeds, I don't think it would be effective because the participants wouldn't quite see the effect of it. They would still be producing new plants, and over time, we would knock it back and keep it in check from the seed dispersal, but they wouldn't see that overall removal process. And in places where Dan started in Great Falls 10, 11 years ago, this summer we actually had to find new areas to pull because they pulled themselves out of weeds. Pull Your Share consists of small efforts that add up to a major habitat protection. Educational events engage youth, students report these field trips as their favorite. It's hands-on, and participants can directly see their accomplishments. It is a program that promotes awareness and responsibility amongst all recreators. To get started, if you're an individual, start looking for those signs and start pulling some weeds. For groups, we have a Pull Your Share website that I believe Greta put in the chat. It's got how-to guides. It's got lesson plans. It's got permission slips. It's got itineraries. And as was previously mentioned before, not all schools get to travel with funding, so there's some ideas for funding sources and tips within that website. Contact the Montana Department of Ag, our noxious weed division, the kNOweeds program. Josh and the EDRR, Greta will all find a way to get signs and posters and support you. Pull Your Share is just a super simple, impactful, fun way to go out and teach kids about weeds. It's place-based. They're outside. They enjoy it. I guess, are you guys ready to pull your share? You can go ahead and give us a call if you're interested. The next program I really liked with the community involvement, because I do think if we start creating these little community leaders, then others do like to follow in their footsteps. So I would like to share with you the Montana Adopted Trailhead Program. Did you know that trailheads and parking lots are hotspots for invasive weeds? These plants quickly hitch a ride and spread quickly into Montana's pristine backcountry or natural areas, or just even further into the park. But this is a simple community-driven solution, and it's Adopted Trailhead. It started in 2015. It was a cooperative, volunteer-driven program with the goal to prevent the spread of noxious weeds from trailheads into the wilderness areas by creating volunteer groups to adopt a trail. They maintain it annually, and they educate other recreationalists in the area. If you're interested in being a part of the Adopted Trailhead Montana program, here's how it works. Volunteers, we get together, we install the educational kiosk. It looks like what you see on the screen. We look at what the local plants and the local weeds are for concern, and those are what the images that we use. The whole point of this is the play clean go, leave no trace, come clean, leave clean. So that's always displayed on the sign. The group has to commit to an annual weed removal spot in that area and then report it to the Adopted Trailhead Montana at the Montana Department of Ag. And then it's kind of fun that each kiosk has a little plaque that represents the group's name who's taking care of it. I will tell you, when we first put these noxious weed boot brush stations in Two Moon Park here in Billings for our buckthorn bandits, they really didn't get used too much. It wasn't until we started doing that I do, we do, you do, and start role modeling the use of these stations. But after people kind of got a sense of what they were, the common trend is you don't use the boot brush stations. So I do find it a really beneficial resource in our area. So just another program where it shows where simple actions can make big differences. How you get started to continue is you just pick a trailhead, you talk with the land manager, you figure out the weeds. We have our weed pool. And so if you're interested, let us know. We'll get you in the Adopted Trailhead program. The last program I would like to share with you today is the kNOweeds education program. I truly feel that education is a long-term tool and one of our strongest tools to fight back. I also feel that education is a key factor in behavior change. It empowers people to recognize, prevent, and control weeds before they even spread. Once people generally know about them and know how, they tend to take action. In my experience, I worked at a weed district. Non-compliance issues were generally to the people who didn't have a clue. The land managers and land owners who had other things going on and dismissed the weeds year after year. Once they got called out on them and they got a little bit of education, they were eagerly to go out and spray. So the Montana kNOweeds program is just going to be another new statewide education campaign. It's going to coordinate and support local education efforts. It's going to provide resources for residents and visitors so that we can all get together and manage invasive species. What I found working in this position is that Montana has so many great resources already out there, and Abby's right there. The Alberta Invasive Species Council has a lot of good stuff, but what happens is there's so much stuff out there that it tends to get lost in the shuffle. So I worked really hard this past year to create this website I would like to show you today. The weed video in the weed section. I've got all the 36 noxious weeds in Montana done. I'm working on some state or county listed noxious weeds as we speak. And those cool videos that Kellyanne showed us, they are a part of this. So there's one more place you can access those. I felt it was important to highlight and start stacking all of our education resources in one spot. Educator resources are for people who go out and share the message, whether you're tabling at an event or you've got picked up a 15-minute presentation or there's activities and games. I'm trying to store the ones that were created in Montana and the ones that are used and liked in this educator resource. Montana did produce through Missoula County Weed District, now Department of Environmental Ecology, but they, with the partners amongst the state, produced an actual curriculum. It's the kNOweeds K-12. When I first started teaching and going out with noxious weed education, this was my go-to. I mean, I used it a lot. I do prefer the online edition now because it's easy to kind of share and piece by piece and suggest different lessons for different needs. We also have the Montana Invasive Species Education pamphlet. There are some online resources at the Department of Ag. We have boxes and boxes of the complete toolkits, from the posters to the little flip books inside and all the different activities. And then we have the Montana Noxious Weed Education Project, and that stuff is also submitted inside of that Montana Invasive Species, but all of the layout stuff has been broken out into pieces. I do feel like Pull Your Share is a great thing for education to get out there and get in it. And I've got landowner resources there. So like the new woody invasive management plan and those types of things, our annual invasive grasses, our certified brochures, those resources that landowners might directly use are located in that tab. Partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. That's how I get through the day. Taking action against invasive species, you're not going to get very far on your own. You're going to get, it's costly, it's tiresome. Working with these folks here and their resources and kind of just to help direct traffic has seemed to have been a big help for our state in education. One other little program really quick I want to point out is this new Montana Citizen Science program that the Natural Heritage is pushing. It's partnered with iNaturalist. iNaturalist is a free app. They've worked with our state department and different specialists throughout the state. So when somebody reports a species, it's checked to see if it's correctly identified. And then if it's a new invasive species in an area, it'll automatically report that species to the specialist in the area. So that might be something to get students involved in. And the last thing I've worked on for this website is the information for Montana Noxious Weed Awareness Week. This week exists to create awareness of what noxious weeds are, how they spread, how they affect Montana's ecosystem, agriculture, recreation, and communities. It focuses on learning to identify, prevent, and report. It's focused that every Montana can play a role. We put out these themes. These are this year's themes, and we'll have some resources, but we're really encouraging you to make it your own. And the biggest part of this is celebrate your success, big or small. Abby's right. When you go out with the plan and you've got a group of students and you're going to get this, this, and this done, and only this gets done, we have to count our blessings and we have to take it one step further and celebrate. When people are posting online their celebrations, they're putting their work inside of these newsletters and sharing it with their partners and their communities. It gives people a little bit of confidence to hopefully go out and try some of these things on their own. So I invite you to hopefully join us in celebrating Noxious Weed Awareness Week. There will be a file of different things that you can share from this website, but you could also take these themes and make it your own. So my greatest piece of advice, just to reiterate, is partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. These were the people and the programs I did in my first year. Now that I'm a year and a half in, all of my partnerships wouldn't be able to fit on the page. When I learn more about other people's mantra, what their passion is, I find some way to build it and make it my own. And it really increases my depth of learning. But overall, partnerships truly enhance programs and they can take your message a lot further. And the other thing is keep your mood up and the weeds down. Everybody's right. Making weeds are not always the funnest subject to sit and talk about, but you can make it fun. You can make it interesting. I like to find in the subject matter that's something that sticks out to me and that I feel passionate about. And then I try to mesh that passion with my audience. But the number one rule is keep your mood up and the weeds down. A negative experience can be worse than no experience at all. So count our blessings, appreciate what we get done. Not everybody feels confident going out and wearing a silly costume, but I do think when we teach and we're out there, if we can show some kind of visual, whether it's a hat or a t-shirt or a little pin that does track our number one messaging of what we're trying to get across, really goes a long way. And with weeds, I like this one. With new invaders on the rise, keep your weed district by your side. The question is, where do we go and talk to people about invasive plants? Each county has a weed district. Some counties share, but that is a safe answer, is to point somebody to a weed district. We also have Extension and Department of Ag, but really the weed district is that point of contact for these invasive plants. I thank you all for coming today. If you need any help or assistance or ideas for starting an education program or enhancing yours in your area, we'd be really happy to. We do have some Ag Corps people that are helping in positions that help us run these programs. And if you have somebody that you've been mentoring and is curious about the invasive species world, or even coming to Montana and joining our Ag Corps program, we are all ears. So thank you again, everybody. And I guess, do we have any questions for me?
We do. There is one. How do I get that outfit?
All of my outfits are from thrift stores, and not one of them have cost less than $50, except for those pairs of pants. These pants were before spring. A lot of different screen printing places were popping up around places. These pants came from Europe, and they were like $165 to have made. But I know my good friend Pam in cohort, she got some Play Clean Go green ones done at her local screen printer for about $20, just pretty much the price of the pants. I will tell you this, they do not make printers like they used to. There is inkjet versus laser jet. These iron-on decals and stuff that I use and create, you cannot use a laser jet. You can just use inkjet. If not, you will severely mess up your printer. But there are print facilities all throughout Montana that still have inkjet. And if you bring them the paper and the image and you give them a few bucks, they'll print them for you. So that's how I get those done.
So I do have one final question if there's no others. Last call for Q&A in the box. If folks are taking their last second or minute chance here to type any remaining questions in the Q&A box. I do have one for all panelists, and that is, tell us about a time you knew the audience truly got the subject. What were the telltale signs, and what content or activity unlocked that understanding? So go ahead and we can start with in the order of what you guys presented today. So Stephanie, start first.
Gosh, I don't know really a specific, but for some of our adult education, we really try to emphasize that their issue probably isn't as severe as they think it is, and that they're probably taking all the right strategies to deal with the noxious weeds on their property. And it's always a good idea to take a step back and evaluate that. And a lot of times the question is, why are you controlling the weeds? Like, what do you actually want to have on this is the aha moment. Like sometimes people get so hung up on, I've got to kill the weeds, get rid of the weeds, that they forget that there's an ultimate end goal. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to treat weeds. So that came out of mini forestry college workshop that I do yearly in March.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kellyanne. Do you have anything to add on that question?
I don't know that if I have any particular ones. It seems like daily we get excitement around here that happens. I think a couple things that come to mind is through our youth bio program, and have been here long enough that the aha moments, at least for me and personally, is when their kids come to me and start working, and the parents thank me for what I helped them do when they were younger, and the jobs that we gave them and what they learned and how they're passing it on to their kids. It's once you're there long enough, you start seeing that full circle of appreciation. The other stuff is when these landowners call you up and they are thankful because they've noticed the difference. They're thankful that we walked them through an entire plan, not just weed reduction, but what their end goals are. And they start seeing that. It's such a rewarding job for myself, places that I've actually treated and worked on, and to be able to go back years later and say, this used to look like this. Now look at it, it's still good. And I just share in the knowledge and seeing the excitement of the landowners that appreciate what you're doing out there. So there's never, I don't think, at least for me, one of those moments that I can pinpoint that just knocks my socks off, because I think there's just so many good things. And as you guys can tell, I can't ever stop talking. So when someone else talks as much as I do, and we have to overcompete because we're all excited about it, that's an aha moment that we're making a difference.
Those are good ones. Then, Abby, how about you?
Yeah, I think I briefly mentioned it during my presentation, but I think the one that comes to mind, maybe not in the exact moment of teaching something, but like if we're at a farmer's market in Big Sky and we have a parent come up with their kid, and the parent is like, "Oh my gosh, like I heard so much about you guys," and then like they get involved and like reach out about our other programs about like getting a site visit or something, or just like seeing that kind of chain of like the kid learned something, had a good time, came home and talked to their parent about it, and then that caused something and made a little bit of a difference. So I feel like that's a really positive thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, they remembered something that I taught them. So that's always really fun.
Thank you. And how about you, Megan?
It has to be the same thing. I was just in a fifth grade quest classroom this last week, and I started doing my emergency alert, and it goes into it's a little skit about how seeds travel, and I had a few kids that actually finished my skit for me, and they were able to recall what weed I had worn before. They were asking what weeds I was going to be talking about today. So when we have those follow-up connections and they're able to spit out of what you tried to teach them, it was just like, oh, wonderful. But I guess my favorite lesson when I feel like I get the most aha with a lot of times it's geared towards younger generations, but adults get it too, is when we make things relatable. That whole concept of biodiversity can be a real pickle unless they've been out and seen it themselves. But when I play like we're going to go to a buffet and, we're all excited and we talk about the different foods that we're going to eat and all the different choices, and we talk about our healthy choices, and all of a sudden we walk into the buffet and they're only serving one thing, and even if we like that thing, can we live on that? And this explain that this is what happens to animals in their environment, that when these invasive species come over slowly and then quickly, one by one, the natives are gone, our biodiversity, there's not as much of a selection, and those animals will go somewhere else. And it's really fun for me to see those kids, my food. And they start caring, and they're like, well, we're going to go somewhere else. And so that's my favorite lesson that I get the most aha. But overall, when you go back to revisit a group and they're able to reiterate or summarize what you talked about last time is huge. Cool. Well, I guess I'm gonna thank everybody. Greta, I really thank you today, panelist, top-notch job. You guys gave a lot of great information. Thanks for the participants who came here today who care about invasive plant and noxious weed education across the state. Like Abby said, a lot of these are just ideas in the invasive plant world, but they can easily be tailored to other subject areas. Reach out, give us a call. Thank you very much for joining us today.